All right. Answering a question from Shane. Shane was asking about comparing TE to TI, and kind of how it fits in different spots, different functional slots, and so on. So, Shane, for you, anyway, Shane Starr, he had a comment on my last video, and he has his own YouTube page, by the way. So, if y'all are interested, go ahead and check him out. So, TE to TI. Last time we were talking about TI being very classification, very organized, structured in their logic, structured in how they like to put the information, everything together. Everything has its place. Everything relates to everything else in a nice, crisp, orderly way. TE is not interested in that. Okay, high TI types, I'm sorry, TE types are aware of structures, protocols, rank systems, hierarchies, and classifications. They can be aware of them, but they're not ultimately interested in doing that kind of thing, building that or adhering to it. They're more focused at immediate problem solving of something. How can I solve a task, a problem in the most direct, efficient way for the moment in front of me, right? It's very situational based. There's a task in front of me. This is the context of that. How do I pick out the way to solve this problem in the most efficient way right the fuck now? Pretty much. Now, it can be a LIE approach of solving a problem that maybe you want to make sure that you solve something that's going to work for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe you're building something that's going to lead to something further down the road. Maybe you're building a computer program. You want to come up with some kind of new tech that's going to revolutionize stuff, whatever, right? There's a slight edge towards long-term problem solving. Now, an LSE might be a little less focused on that and a little more focused on the immediate. I'm just trying to solve a problem efficiently right now. Gets things going for the next couple of days or 3 days, whatever, and then we'll readdress after that, right? Really, both types can kind of do either or, should they need to or choose to, because they're both have high TE. So your TE types are more into problem solving. So when we look at actual people, let's see if I can. Here's something to kind of get people to see this, hopefully. Can I? Maybe. No. All right. Whatever. When you go through this stuff, all right, one of the things I find interesting and notable is you will see TI people, someone like Jack, for example, will be very interested in debating with people the underlying structure, the logic to their systems. So you will see at how he has so many discussions and debates, usually with either other ILEs or LIIs, where they'll go at it for hours on just the theory, the structure. Can we rearrange the structure somehow? Can we what else can we do with it? Can we put charges? Can we not put charges? Would it make sense to this? It's all theoretical. Notice these videos, Model G arguments that go on for 2.5 hours. Debate charges. Can we put charges and so on in here? What about, can we talk about whole new models like Model A2 Plus? Can we come up with um, the Psycho Sophie and this work, together? Is that really makes sense given such and such and whatever that he'll argue with Timur over here? And on and on. And there's more videos in here. And here's the funny part. Just to make my point, a lot of these arguments, these debates are almost always with types that really value TI. 90% of the time, they're TI types, arguing and battling it out with each other over whose structure and model makes more logical sense in theory, this is how you should organize it and whatever. Look, another one here with Varlowin, whatever. I think he's LII, whatever. Nuts. More arguments. Ben Vaserlin is another LII arguing over here. There are more people discussing their own systems somewhere in here. They're coming up with like model A2, model this and that. There's Shane. What's up, Shane? Check out the video, his interview. Shane Starr and Jack. So as a side note. Anyway, so you're seeing these arguments that break out, these discussions that go at long, even host Eric here, who's supposed to be another ILE, right? These long ass debates, and it's all about theory, structure. Does it work? Look, another one, Model G2. A lot of these TI types creating models and structures and ways to understand and put all the information, put it all in a nice packaged way. They really care about that kind of stuff. It motivates them to create their models, to debate it, to discuss it, whatever, right? Very theoretical stuff. You'll also notice there'll be more philosophical conversations that can happen a lot. So you'll see a lot of your IEIs, people like Michael Pierce, who has moats and beams. He likes to get into a lot of other philosophical stuff. And he'll have a lot of debates discussing the very metaphysical like properties and philosophical concepts and discussing Nietzsche and Kant and all these other philosophers. And they'll just be going on and on and on. And Jack, who also studied philosophy, more of this kind of TI analytics, they'll get into these things at nauseum, right? Timur, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, has his own school, kind of a cool school. I recommend people check it out. The Prosky Saga, that's one of the videos about it. There's Timur right there. There he is. He's another socionist, has a school out in St. Petersburg, Russia. He has his own method. He's an LSI, right? More TI. So you're seeing a lot of TIs, right? And that really enjoy these kinds of deep theoretical arguments and does things make sense based on this or based on how it flows from one thing to another. They will really get interested in talking about dichotomies and definitions of things, and does your definition make more sense than my definition, and does this dichotomy make more than that dichotomy, and and blah. They really do that. Now, I don't want to knock it because it has its purpose, it has its place to do it, but your TE individuals usually they're not interested in those kinds of topics, because what they're really after is, okay, I want to find the parts that make sense to me, the parts that can be useful to me and it can be applicable as quickly, immediately, and effectively. Big word, effectively, in the real world. Theory is one thing. Actual, what can we really see and do in reality? That's more important. TE types will do that. So some of the people who are more TE oriented, and by that, I just want to some of Jack's latest videos, very, if you listen to these, very meticulous on each of the dichotomies, each of the different little detailed associations that you might find, no matter how small and trivial within the structure, looking at the structure and theory of socionics to pull from that in order to glean some kind of a theoretical understanding of how one type is connected to another type, how types that are very different from one another, seemingly, are actually have these areas that are connected to each other. EIEs and ILEs, LSIs and ILEs, ESC to ILEs, right? Types that look and present in reality quite differently. But in terms of the theory and the structure, if you look close enough, you'll notice these little details of how they connect here to there, how they relate to one another. This is where they refer to TIs looking at the field of information, how all the pieces come together. Very theoretical. It takes a lot of deep thinking, looking at all the meticulous little parts, lining them all up, putting it all together, and so on, right? But it may not be very practical. It may not be very useful to most people or whoever's watching the individual. Maybe you're pointing out some little detail within the structure, but ultimately, in reality, when you're on the move and you're talking to a real person, those little details may be fucking irrelevant to you. That's not something that really stands out very much. So in your mind, you're like, why do I give a shit? Or I shouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to that because it's not very useful to me, right? What is useful? What is applicable? How does it really work in reality? TE types are much more interested in that. So TEs are more likely to chop and change shit left and right. They're much more likely to look at the theory, the structure, and just pick out that's what I need right now. I'm going to do it like this. Even if it breaks with the structure, even if it doesn't cohere, it's okay. I'm going to do this. Something to prove my point, or not, whatever, reinforce my point. I've used this example before. I'm going to do it again because it just keeps coming to mind. Chemistry. All right. For those of you who know chemistry or whatever, in chemistry, you often try to calculate something before you go into the lab, right? Before you start throwing chemicals and things together in the lab, you do the math. Do the math on a piece of paper, on a computer program, whatever, and you try to calculate this is what I'm going to get, the result I'm going to get. And you call that the theoretical yield, right? In theory, this is what I'm supposed to get. In theory, I'm supposed to get 19 grams of whatever, water, right? Okay. But when you actually apply it now, when you actually go in the lab and start throwing things around, what did you really get? Oh, I only got 15 grams. I got 4 grams less. It didn't really come out. And it never does. It almost never, well, I don't want to say never. Sometimes you get pretty damn close. But most of the time, you don't. The point I'm trying to highlight here is here's a concrete example of theory is one thing, reality, something else. You look into people who like martial arts stuff, okay? In some Chinese kung fu where someplace, theoretically, is it possible to punch somebody in the chest and stop their heart and kill them and do some Kill Bill 5-finger touch death thing? Is it theoretically possible? Yes, actually, it is. It is possible that you can actually hit somebody at the exact right moment of their heart beating, and you may actually stop the heart. In theory. In reality, how often does that really happen? Very rarely. In reality, what's your capability to actually time it just right to hit somebody at the exact place and moment to do something like that? Not very often. So then what the fuck is the use of something like that? Not a whole lot of use, right? TE types think like this. TE types tend to be like, nah, this is just not very useful. It's not very practical. It's not efficient. Yeah, maybe it works 2% of the time, 10% of the time, but you know what? 90% of the time, it's not fucking working. It's not very useful to me. So I'm not really that interested, right? TE types tend to have more of a sense of immediacy. Here's a problem. Here's something I want to solve and I want to do it. Let's get to it. TE types often want to deal with observable factual data, empirical data, right? Empirical stuff. How is it actually working and being proven to work? This is one of the reasons why a lot of your TE valuing types want you to show them that it works. Prove to me that it works. Show me that it's working. How is it working? Show it to me. And as much concrete reality as you can. Now, if you can't do it in front of me, show me statistics, show me data, show me research articles and papers and things like that done by credible people. Show me all that, and then I will go with you. Show me history books that prove, oh, okay, yeah, this is how it's been done. Yeah, here you go. Right. They often want that empirical, objective view of things. To a lot of TE types, your ramblings on, I think this is how something works because I've thought about it, and this is how things make sense to me, and this is how, if you don't show a lot of objective information to validate that, then a lot of your TE types become skeptical and suspicious and really don't like it. Here's something else I'd like to show actually. Mm, for those who've lasted this long, I know we have short attention spans. Check out conversations with Peter Bartl and Jack, if I could find him. Yes, I will. By the way, guys, if you're not looking at
This
diagnostic
is the key
interviews,
to building muscle after
in my
40. I'm
opinion,
52 years
you're fucking
old,
up.
father of 5, and I've been a personal trainer for
And I
over
think
30
that
years.
that's part of me.
Easy to switch.
Here's another his latest interview. This is, to me, perhaps a bit of the TE showing up, right? Doing interviews, seeing real people talking about things, seeing how they talk about stuff. That is kind of an empirical way of assessing things, right? You're looking at how somebody is actually addressing themselves, how they're describing themselves in reality. You're looking at methodology, the kinds of questions being asked. Is it working? Are the questions good questions? Should they be improved in some way? Are we getting a result we want? TE types are very interested in that. Now, something important to bring up before I forget. Bear in mind, you're going to have certain types that are, let's say, a TE lead, like an LIE or LSEs, that kind of ignore the TI. They're not really that interested in it. They sort of, You're going to have uh, TI types like LIIs, LSIs that are not interested in the TE so much. They're sort of ignoring and, With those types, you're going to notice, of course, that they favor one form of information a lot more than the other. TE types are talking about TE things a lot and sort of really not discussing the TI very much. TI types, it's the other way around. For types that are polar in TE or TI, you'll notice that they just don't really bring up TI things at all or TE things at all, right? Whatever. IEIs are notoriously awful at really showing any interest in how things work, like real world things, how they work, how to use them, what to do with them, etc. They don't really care. And they often can talk about it in a very negative way, like it just doesn't matter. Like, who gives a shit how this works or that works? And like, so what? I don't care. Let other people deal with that shit. Right. Drives your TE types crazy. Drives me fucking nuts. Meanwhile, you have some types that have no TI, like IEEs, SEEs. And these types can often talk about things and they're very contradictory. They can be kind of all over the place when trying to describe something or talk about certain things. Watch some, in fact, you could watch the latest interview that Jack did yesterday with Elias, the guy that he just did. There he is, Elias, IEE. And when you're going through that, you're noticing he's kind of all over the fucking place. It was a little difficult to follow at times because it's just like I can't get a coherent picture of what the fuck you're talking about. You have to resort to other methods to figure out who you're dealing with. Right? It's common with TI polars. So anyway, rambled there. This is Peter Bartl on the screen. Another great socionist, LIE, has had multiple discussions with Jack, and you get to see how the two of them are very different from each other in how they go about stuff. Jack is very interested in the structure and in breaking down all the little dichotomies, little details, and he really enjoys that kind of stuff. to make his case. Peter here doesn't really do that. Doesn't mean he doesn't know them. He will bring them up, but it's not his method. He prefers referring to what is the evidence that you're using. Show me the evidence and the argument that you're making. Where did you get that evidence from? Where's the sources and stuff? He's much more into that, which I can agree with. Let's listen to them kind of talk about this a little bit.
If somebody just tells me that's what I think and that's it, right? I'm skeptical because I feel, okay, that's what you think and say, but why? Why do you think that, right? And because, and then if you don't know how to explain it to exactly why you get there, where you get there, I'm not sure I can, and I know, I'm convinced that you know what you're talking about, right?
Yes, I often get the sense that as soon as I give a picture across, you immediately think, no, but I mean, you try and dive in and try and correct it or try and expand more information on this part or that part, and exactly, I never find that we're entirely satisfied with each other's way of conveying the information, and so
Yes.
we often have to try and correct each other's way of doing it.
Yeah.
Almost because each other's methods are almost counterintuitive.
Yeah. Yes. Even if at the end of the day you may agree. No, I think, yeah, okay. Actually, I'll try to compensate for that. No, I think that's it. And if you think in terms of duality, right? Because I am programmed to talk to ESIs. The ESI doesn't want to understand things. Wants to know things, right? And if you talk, give a lot of information, they will capture what you're saying, even if you don't understand how everything fits together. And if you just give the information, oh, that's it, the conclusion, they will think, well, this is all there is to it, right? I think that's pretty much how it works. Why?
All right, there's some, I don't want this to go on too long. I'll link this particular video in the interview. Great interview. I love every time Peter shows up. It's fantastic. Another really good socionist. Let me see here. Okay, some important things that were just mentioned there. Something that really comes up a lot, and I agree with this as well. A lot of your heavy TE types will be very interested in your methods. How did you get to your conclusion? Show me your reasoning or explain it to me. Explain to me why you're getting to your particular way of thinking, right? If you believe that, yeah, really, I don't even want to come up with, never mind. I'm just going to say something that's not, whatever, right? Whatever you particularly believe in. If you have a certain ideology, you know, whatever the hell, okay, explain to me why. Where's your evidence for it? You don't have to put papers in front of me or anything. Just explain it to me. Tell me why. Okay, if you think that you have the best way to cook something or you have the best technique and some, all right, show me why. Explain it to me. Walk me through it as best you can so I see and I can understand where you're coming from with this. When you're not able to do that or you refuse to do that, when you're just like, trust me, bro, it's just how it is. What do you mean? Why do I have to explain that? Of course, it's self-evident. No, it's not. High TE types don't like that at all. Okay, we might understand where you're going with it already. We can intuitively see that this is the leap that you're making, but it's not satisfying to us. We want you to kind of explain, show me the process to that. It allows me to now be not as skeptical as Peter mentioned. It allows me to realize that you didn't just jump to conclusions without looking at anything. And it allows me to verify that what you're saying and the conclusion you reached is the right conclusion. You've looked at all the data, you looked at the evidence, you've shown case study after case study and so on. Yeah, okay, you're right. Otherwise, people can just make shit up out of nowhere. and just decide that's how it is because I fucking said so. No, it's not. This is, again, one of the areas where people who are TE polar, usually the IEIs, I find to be the most criminal at screwing this up. They often do not want to explain themselves or don't know how to. Sometimes they maybe are in their mind, they want to try to explain it, but they're struggling to find the words and they don't really know how to articulate it, put it together. And so they end up just giving you this like flimsy answer and they just move on. And it drives the TE types crazy because, again, the TE is looking for that show me how, show me the method, the techniques you're talking about, show me the evidence of what you're describing, and then I can maybe support your claim. Until then, you look like you're making unsubstantiated statements that don't mean shit. And that's just that disconnect. Yes. So it's kind of an example how that plays out. I don't. And I've seen that kind of thing happen a lot. Again, with IEIs in particular. Usually, IEIs do this the most because they tend to like to go into very abstract, deep philosophical thinking or some kind of social commentary. They want to describe things going on in society and civilization, and like this is the way that people should do things. If society would be a better society, we should go off and do it like this because that's the way to do it. And they really enter into these kinds of debates and discussions a lot. So this tends to pull in people into these debates, and then that's when you're looking at them like, okay, why do you believe that? Show me your evidence. Show me something as to why I should agree with your view of thinking. And that's when the shit hits the fan. SEIs that are also TE polar are far more conservative in their thinking and are not going to really venture off to talk about where society should go and all these other areas. They'll stick to things that they know well, topics that are down to earth and that they know well to pretty much work the way they say it does. That kind of helps them from straying too far into these kinds of weird debates and discussions. So anyway, in summary of all this, TI, very orderly, structured, putting all the pieces together, making sure everything coheres and fits in order to get to an exacting answer and conclusion. It often takes more time to thoroughly think about these things deeply. TE is a bit more expedient. Show me information. Where is it? How does it work? Show me observably that that's the way it works in reality, that that's the most efficient way we can do something. Okay, efficient. And by efficient, I mean something you can accomplish putting in the least amount of effort for the maximum amount of result. Very empirical, very prove it to me kind of approach to doing things. Very task oriented. Show me an actual problem, a real thing to solve. That's what I care about. And then that's what I'm going to go do. Okay? And then conversely, look at types that are TI polar. And what are they missing? What are they not doing? Look at types that are TE polar and what are they missing? What are they not doing? And that also helps to give you a sense of what TE is really all about. What is TI really all about? Right? You got to know both sides, the yin and the yang, the up and the down. What is it when someone has that element strongly? And what is it when someone does not have that element at all? Right? That'll give you a nice understanding of what the hell the thing is. Right? So hopefully all this yapping got somewhere on answering this question. As always, let me know if there was something I needed to talk about more, go more in depth in, whatever. Went off on a tangent the wrong direction, etc. Like, subscribe, as always. Good to hear from you, Shane. And to everyone else watching. Toodles. And Make sure to boldly go where no man has gone before.